Hello, everybody. I'm Mike Shrimpton. This is a Coaching Room Community Call. I am joined by James Hayes and Max Young. Max is going to zip through some slides. James is in the driving seat. We are talking about meta programs today. James, do you want to kick us off?
Hey. Yeah, let's do that. So meta programs. We've talked about meta programs a number of times in this community. A lot of people in this community have got some kind of basic experience with meta programs and know a little bit about it. For those of you who maybe it's your first time hearing about meta programs, lightning overview, meta programs are attentional filters. They are filters in terms of what you're going to pay attention to and what you're going to ignore. So most meta programs operate along a continuum. You can look at the big picture or you can look at the small picture, but generally speaking, you can't do both at the same time. And these become habits for people. Some people are so skilled at the big picture that it's all they can do. Some people are so skilled at the details that they kind of lose sight of the big picture. So there's about 60 meta programs. Generally speaking, we operate around 5 to 6 kind of main habitual meta program drivers. And the key point is none of them are better than the other. Some of them fit some circumstances really well. Others fit other circumstances really well. None are better than the other. It's just context dependent. Now, one of the contexts that we're going to zoom in on today and really have a look at is coaching. A lot of people in this kind of community in personal development space, either professionally or just kind of, in a friendly way, want to be able to help other people learn things, do things, change things. And so coaching is a great kind of context that we can look at meta programs in. So if you're, a little bit confused about meta programs, this is going to give a bunch of really good examples. Likewise, if you kind of got a handle on meta programs and coaching is a thing that you're interested in, what we're going to dive into in this little session is which are the meta programs that are most fitting for the context of coaching, and which of them maybe, if you can't access them very well, are going to trip you up and cause you some traps. So that's what the agenda is for this next little while.
Okay, fantastic. Let's kick off. Max. James, do you want to run through one at a time then? Well, just give a quick overview. What is a meta program? Just a quick refresher for everyone.
So a meta program is an attentional filter, and it determines of all the information you could pay attention to in a particular situation, which of that information do you pay attention to and which of that information do you ignore? So each of these examples on the slide and then on the next slides are facets of information that you can pay attention to and facets that you can ignore. And it's really going to change the way you show up as a coach or in the helping space, if you're in the helping space, if these are drivers for you. Really strong habits. Particularly if you're not really good at accessing either of the sides, it's going to cause you some problems.
Okay. And if I ask James to, if I ask James to go over anything again, just so you realize, it's because different people turn up on the call at different times. So I might just recap. So just to help the newcomers as they arrive. Okay. So James.
Good. So we've got a couple here. Now, before I go into any of these, let me just say that ultimately all of the 60 meta programs are playing some role all of the time, no matter what the context is. Consider these ones that we go through next to be the ones that aren't the only ones that are going to play a role in coaching, but in our experience are ones that show up time and time again as strengths or as real struggles if you haven't got them in check. So consider these to be, generally speaking, the ones to really refine and make sure that you've got good access to if you want to be really effective at coaching from our perspective. So let's have a look at the first one. Now, the first one, relationship comparison. It's got two sides here, matching and mismatching. Well, matching is looking for similarities. Mismatching is looking for differences. With this continuum, when it comes to coaching, both of these ends of the continuum are really important. matching is really important for getting rapport and for supporting your client. So matching is all about, one manifestation of matching is matching body language, matching keywords, matching the way that the client thinks and the way that the client speaks by using the same tone and feeding back the same keyword. These are all examples of matching. And the experience for the other person when you're matching is it's like you're agreeing. We feel matched, we feel alike, we feel the same, which is a great way of building rapport. And so it's necessary in coaching for that relationship side of the equation. However, what's also necessary is mismatching, which is looking for differences, and how that shows up in a coaching session is your client's going to say all these different things and share your, their story with you and all the things they believe, and all that stuff's going to come out. Now, matching, you might, acknowledge what they're saying, not affirm, rather. Acknowledge what they're saying. Acknowledge, I hear this is how you feel. I hear this is what you think, and you're speaking the same way, and you're matching all those different variables. But then mismatching kicks in when you say, I see you've seen A, B, C. It sounds like what you haven't seen is D. Yeah, so mismatching is really critical for the coaching, for the parts of the coaching conversation where you're offering a different view or you're challenging a client's view. And really supporting is, well, one part of supporting is rapport, but the other part is challenging. You can't support your client if you can't challenge. If you can only do one side of the equation, let's just say you're really good at matching, what you end up doing as a coach is agreeing a lot or seeming to agree a lot with your client, but not really be able to, challenge or offer them an alternative view. So they'll feel really good about being your coachee because you just seem so alike, but neither of you are going in any other direction than the one the client was already headed in. So that's the dilemma of just being able to do one side. If all you can do is mismatching, some people are really strong, really good at mismatching and not so good at matching. Well, what that looks like is, constantly playing devil's advocate, constantly playing the opposing view, and a coach can seem very disagreeable to a client if that's all they can do. They might be great at providing a different perspective, but the client's probably not so optimized in terms of being willing to receive it because all they're getting is mismatching. Mismatching overdone can be very, an abrasive experience. So both of these are super important meta programs that both come together for relationship and for, acknowledging and challenging a client's view, both of which are really important. So that's the first two. And by the way, as we go through these, if you've got any questions, if something kind of not landing right for you, or you want to ask about a different question, just drop it in the chat box. Max is going to capture those questions and feed them into this conversation if they arise. All good?
All good.
Good. So let's move on then to adaptation. And now these two sides of the coin. This coin's about how you adapt. Do you try and make the client adapt to you? That would be judging. Or do you try and adapt to the client? Kind of go with their flow. That would be perceiving. Now, this is one of the meta program continuums where most of the time, I'm not going to say every time, but most of the time, like 9 times out of 10, it's going to be more fitting for you as a coach to be on the perceiving side of the scale, not on the judging side of the scale. As a coach, you're going to get, particularly the more successful you get, you're going to get hundreds and maybe hopefully thousands, hopefully hundreds of thousands of different clients, and they're all going to be different. They're all going to think differently. They're all going to have different meta programs, different personalities, different enneagrams. There's just going to be so much difference going on. And no two coachees are the same. If you have a judging approach, which means you're trying to kind of fit the client to the mold that you think suits or should be. What happens is you stop coaching, you stop facilitating, and you start probably mentoring or advising or telling. Three things which are definitely not coaching, maybe even the antithesis to coaching. Judging really fits the mentoring space, or really fits the advising space. If you've got expertise that you're sharing and you're telling someone, this is how it is, this is how you should be, this is what you should do, and you're getting them to adapt to the way that you think it really needs to be. Well, in some situations like mentoring or advising, that's what you're being paid to do. So it totally fits. But in coaching's all about helping your client find their resources. It's all about helping your client find their truth. So it's about facilitating, which means you need to be able to adapt to your client, which means you need to be able to hold a non-judgmental frame of mind and be able to match and go with however the client is showing up, so that you can facilitate them to their outcome rather than the outcome that you think maybe they should go for. Most of the time, judging is what's going to get you in trouble with clients. Yeah, it's going to take you out of a coaching space and into a different space altogether, which don't get me wrong, is 100% suitable for some roles. Coaching is just not one of them. So perceiving is something, for anyone in the coaching space to really work with. How do you just focus on being present and being with your client rather than trying to take them where maybe you think they should go?
Okay, let me ask a question on that. So give people sort of the personal connection to it. What is the difference in the felt experience for you between those two things, if you were to switch between them?
Yeah, in judging, the coach is acting like the authority on what's right for the other person. So it can be very telly, it can be very preachy, it can be it can really break rapport with people. Yeah, generally speaking, unless someone's paying for that specifically, generally speaking, most people aren't particularly enthused by being told what to do. Unless particularly asking for it. Whereas perceiving is like, no matter how you show up, no matter what your style is, no matter what you think, I can adapt to you. Yeah, it's very. I think for a lot of people, it's very honoring. Yeah, it's meeting the person in their world, and for a lot of people, they just don't have that experience. Most people. I'm generalizing a bit here, but a conventional experience for a person is that other people are often trying to get them to fit their mold. It's rare for a person to fully give themselves to meeting you in your world, which really is what a coach is there to do, or a part of what they're there to do. And so it's almost impossible to do whilst you're judging. It really requires a perceiving frame of reference, which is just more easy, I think. Just more easy for
more open.
The experience. More open. Open's a good word. I like open.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, definitely more open. Judging will be definitely more closed.
Okay, great. Should we go to the next one? Thank you.
Good. Let's go to the next one. Responsibility. This is a huge one. This one shows up a lot of the time, especially for new coaches. But it's not limited to new coaches. Some people who've been coaching for a long time can fall prey to the different traps in this meta program. This is all about what you're taking ownership of, what you're taking responsibility for, and therefore accountability. Now we've got three different ends here. We've got under, we've got over, we've got healthy responsibility. This is one of the meta programs where, again, 9 times, I'm going to say for this one, 10 times out of 10, where you really need to be for effective coaching is right in the middle. Healthy responsibility. which means taking ownership of, if you're the coach, taking ownership of what you say, of the attitude that you bring, or the thinking that you bring, the state that you bring, and what you do in the coaching session, not what the client does. Yeah, it's taking responsibility for what you're giving, but not for what the client is receiving, because that's up to them. And let me give you a specific example that I think really rings home for most people in this kind of trap. A lot of new coaches and people in this category, and what happens frequently, we see it all the time, is the coach will take ownership, will take responsibility for the client getting their outcome. And if the client's not making enough progress, or if they think maybe the client's kind of not reaching their outcome fast enough, the coach will become over responsible. Well, they're already over responsible if they're trying to take ownership of that. And now there's a sense of pressure. Now there's a sense of like performance anxiety and needing to get to the point faster. And now a coach can be too helpful that it's actually not helpful. Yeah, trying to help the person in a way that's disempowering. Because as the coach takes responsibility for the client's outcome, well, guess who doesn't have to take responsibility for the outcome? The client. And if they're showing up in the session in a way where they're putting it on the coach, they're saying, well, it's your fault, or it's your job to make me get the outcome that I need. They're being under responsible. Well, if the coach takes that bait, now they're being over responsible, which allows the client to maintain their lack of responsibility. Now you just have this like codependent relationship going, which is the opposite of what's required for effective coaching. Really effective coaching is taking responsibility for what you give and holding the client to account to be responsible for their end of the deal, which is to bring something real to the session, to give themselves, to be open, to do what they need to do in order to get their result, because it's their result. It's a little bit like, imagine I'm a personal trainer and you're my new client, and I'm feeling really over responsible. It's really important for me that you get your outcome because I'm imagining that my success or reputation or whatever depends on it. So you come into the gym, you get on the bench, I put the weights on the machine for you, get everything all nice and pretty, and it's all ready to go. And you start to lift and you say, oh, well, it's your job to make sure I get my result. And I'm the personal trainer and I'm being over responsible. And I say, okay, you're struggling a little bit. Let me lift that weight for you. And now I'm lifting the weight for you, and now you're not lifting the weight. Well, who's getting the result?
Perfect. Okay, so we've got our first three. James Webb has got a question. So we're going to jump onto that one before we go to the next three meta programs in relation to coaches. James Webb's question is, any commonly seen examples of coaches judging?
Oh yeah, see it all the time. So the coach is judging. The coach is judging when they start to say, well, you should just do ABC or XYZ, or anytime the coach says should, there's probably a judgment coming. Yeah, you shouldn't think like that. Oh, you should think like that. Well, if you just changed what you thought to this, that would really be good for you. Anytime the coach is putting their map, their view, their belief system or their value system forward as the thing the coachee should kind of pay attention to and follow, the millions of examples of combinations of them doing that, that's judging.
Okay, great. Thank you. You got those Myrtle operators of, what is it? Which one is that? You remember which one?
Responsibility, adaptation, and relationship comparison.
Now you got the shoulds and the musts and the whole, Myrtle operators or something.
That's right. Yeah.
Necessity, I think it is. Okay, Sarah Frank. I'm getting all geeky on it. Sarah Franks, James. What does under responsibility look like for the coach? And she's got a few examples: not coming to the session in the right state, not listening, etc.
Those are some good examples. A really strong example of is this a coach or a coachee?
For the coach, I guess it's the coach.
Coach.
I don't know, actually, it could be for the coach. Yeah.
So most of the time, coaches fall prey to over responsibility, not under responsibility. It's just because they're in that kind of helping space and they want to help, so much. If a coach was coming in an under responsible kind of way, it would probably be they're in a bad mood, or they're not in the right frame of mind. Maybe they've had a difficult day, or something's not right with their state or with their kind of thinking, and they're not doing anything about it. Maybe they're blaming, any kind of blame going on, blaming external environment, or maybe even the coachee. I haven't really seen it happen, too much, but kind of anything where the coach is not taking ownership of their attitude, their thinking, their emotions, their judging, anything like that. If they're showing up in a way that they know isn't conducive to a session, well, that would be under responsible. 9 times out of 10, that's probably what it would look like.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you, Sarah. Thanks, James, for questions. Next meta programs, please, Max.
Good.
James, over to you.
Okay, so we've got a couple here. So the first one is authority. And this is looking at, as the coach, when do I take charge? When do I let the client take charge? Yeah, who's the boss of the session, basically? Is the authority with me, which would be internal, or is it with the client, and then it would be external? And this is one where it kind of depends, because at different times in the coaching relationship, you're probably going to be playing different roles. In the very first, in the beginning phase of the relationship, when you're doing like an intake session, or you're talking to someone about maybe coming into coaching with you, in those kind of examples, really you're being an authority, particularly in an intake session, because you're going to set the boundaries. You're going to say, this is how we're going to work together. Here's the policy. Here's how frequently we'll catch up. Here's how frequently we won't catch up. Here's the time frames that I'm going to hold you to. Is that okay with you? Kind of in that part of the phase where really we're being our own authority, because we're part of it is us telling them the boundaries of how we work effectively together. And really, the authority there needs to be with the coach, because the client's not qualified to really judge what makes a really effective coaching with you, because only you're going to know that. And the clients can have all kinds of unresourceful frames of mind. The client might come in and say, well, I expect you to just tell me the answers, and I expect you to just tell me everything, and they might have expectations that you're just going to be over responsible. Or a client might have an attitude about coming late where it's like, oh, it's okay, it's no problem, you should just accommodate. Or some clients might just want to go over time all the time. And if you're not setting really clear boundaries, if you're not managing expectations in an authority, not in a pushy way or anything like that, but just in a clear, grounded, this is how we work together from my end of the relationship. How does that suit you? If you can't do that real well, then your boundaries are going to be, very loose. You're probably going to have, and here's some examples of difficulties people have when they can't really stand in their own authority. Well, you might have problems asking for money. When it's time to ask for the paycheck, or keeping people to times. I've had plenty of clients who want to go over time. And I know plenty of coaches one of their struggles is they allow clients to go over time, and so they're constantly running late because they're constantly giving clients more than they agreed, even though it means they're going to keep the next person waiting. So being able to really stand in your own authority, really important for parts of the relationship, pitching expectations and setting those boundaries, also known as frames. That's really critical. Also, however, within the coaching sessions, it's important to be able to give the client the reins. Where do you want to go with this? Here's what we talked about last time. What is most relevant to you in this session? These are little examples of questions we're asking where we're giving authority over to the client. I heard it quoted somewhere. I don't remember the source, but the quote was, if you're able to demonstrate that you can give the reins over to your client, they'll almost never take it because they'll trust you with it. But if you can't do that, there's always going to be resistance because it seems like a one-sided affair. Well, the nature of coaching is facilitation, which means it's about the client getting their outcome. So it's really healthy. It's really appropriate many times, in sessions, in the beginning of sessions, to be able to give authority over to the client and say, where do you want to go from here? Here's what I think, but this is your coaching session. Where do you want to go with this? And so, being able to do both, really important. If you can only do one, you might set really amazing boundaries that everyone's really clear on, but no one really wants to engage with because it's mostly about you. If you're really external in your authority, then the client might feel kind of really powerful in the session because they've got all this, it's what they say goes. But then you're going to have kind of management issues where your clients are leading you around in circles because you haven't been able to contain the relationship in a way that's really healthy. So that's the authority source.
Cool. Attention.
Good. Attention is kind of similar to authority, but different. Attention this time is now saying, where is your attention? Not where is your authority, but where is your attention? Is it with you or was it with the other person? And again, in coaching for this, most of the time, maybe this time 8 times out of 10, most of the time it's appropriate for your attention to be with the client, not with you. What are they thinking? What are they feeling? What's going on for them? What cues are they manifesting? What things are they saying? All of your attention with them, most of the time is really going to do you wonders because it goes hand in hand with listening effectively. It's really hard to listen effectively if your attention's with you. It's going to be with the other person. And the degree to which it's not with the other person and it's with you is probably the degree to which you're not listening. Well, if you can't listen, you can't coach. It's the most important skill in terms of priorities. So attending to the other person with your attention is one of those things that is really going to make you as a coach or break you if you can't do it really well. And some examples of where people can't do it really well is performance anxiety. Or if you're coaching with the person and whilst you're talking to them, you're talking to yourself in your own head. It's like you're having a conversation with them and you're wondering to yourself, am I asking the right question? Am I saying the right thing? What do they think of me? Was that a smart thing for me to do? If your attention is with the dialogue inside your head, you're just going to miss a whole, heaps of things that the client is sharing with you that are really critical. And clients know when you're not listening because it comes out in the way that you ask questions. It comes out in they're having to repeat themselves. So this is one of the meta programs where it's more often than not better to be on the other side than on both sides.
Okay, so that gives people some tips. How do people improve their ability to pay attention?
It's practice. Number 1, practice. Number 2, value. the more, and this is true for all meta programs, the more you value the other side of the equation, the more you'll pay attention to it. If you're in a coaching session and you value more than anything else what that person's saying, what they're thinking, what they're sharing, and you value very little what might be going on in your head, then your attention's going to be with them, not with you. So if you're having difficulty with that, change the value. Make what the other person's saying sacred. Make what they're sharing sacred.
Okay, great. Last one for this session, movie position.
Good. So this one is, we call this two different things. From a meta program point of view, it's when you think about what the client is saying, like when you kind of replay it in your own head, are you stepped in to the representation, or we use the metaphor of a movie, like are you stepped into the movie, or are you stepped out third person? So this is really kind of first person thinking, third person thinking. And you know you're thinking first person if you're really feeling what they say. Like they're telling you, maybe something really bad, painful that's happened to them, and as they're sharing it with you, you're feeling that pain. Plenty of coaches talk about this. It's like the client's in tears and now you're in tears. That's a good example of stepping in to the movie. Stepping out of the movie is when you can be really objective, really impartial. The client can share a story with you, maybe a really painful story, and you can see the structure of the story, but you're not really feeling the content. So first person, third person. We also, in the coach mentoring program, we call this looking at and looking as. Looking as is first person thinking, which means it's like I'm pretending to be the client for a moment and I'm looking as them. So it's kind of a combination of stepping into the movie and sending my attention with them. And it's really useful for empathy, for understanding, not just intellectually, but emotionally, what's going on for the client. It demonstrates empathy to the client, demonstrates that you're there, you're real, you're a human being too, and you're sharing this experience together. It gives you more information than just kind of rationally thinking about it. But if you get stuck there, some people are really good at doing this and not really good at stepping out. If you get stuck there, you'll really feel it and it will be too much. It's like you will really carry the burden that all your clients carry. They have in therapy, they have, and psychology, people have to get supervisors to help them not take on, therapist or the psychologist, to not take on the emotional kind of burdens of the clients.
Yeah.
Well, it's really a meta program issue. The whole supervision thing isn't necessary if you just know this. Stepping in is great, and it's great for feeling what's going on, but you need to step out as well and look at the client. Stepping out is hearing the story, but looking at the structure of it, looking at what beliefs make up this story, what frames of reference make up this story, what representational systems make up this story, what are the variables coming together in this person's mind to create this experience. So it's exceptional for just objectivity. And being able to step into this space really allows you to see things the client can't see because they're stuck in it. They're in the trenches of it, whereas you're third party. So this is really useful for being able to point out things that the client can't see things, see the patterns and all the different things going on that they can't see. And then there are some people who can only do this. and they kind of feel and look like, you know, emotional vegetables. They're really smart, or they, you know, might be able to point out some really insightful things, but there's no emotion going on. They just can't feel it. Maybe it's even a little bit robotic, and it's not great for demonstrating to the client, hey, I'm a human being too. So it creates a kind of disconnection emotionally, and it doesn't really support the coach in being able to understand the picture fully, because they can only see the details, they can't really feel them. Meta programs where both are really critical, you know, kind of simultaneously. I need to be able to feel and really experience what's going on for my client so I understand him or her, as well as be objective and really look at the situation in a way that they can't, because they're stuck in it.
Okay, let's dive in with the question. This is perfect. James Webb, what would be your number one recommended exercise to practice to step into the movie if stepping out is a driver? Thanks, James.
Yeah, good. Good question. So you can think of stepping out as like looking. You're just looking at something. You can think of stepping in as feeling it. So if you want to practice stepping in, practice feeling what's going on as you play whatever movie you're playing. If the client's sharing something with you, and you know it's this big drama, and they think like this, and they have these beliefs, and they're worried about all these things, try that on for yourself after you've seen it and you know what those things are. Try it on and ask yourself, if I thought like this, how does it feel? And pay attention to the feelings. It's really about what you're paying attention to. Are you paying attention to kind of what you can see, or are you paying attention to how it feels? And just practice paying attention to how it feels.
Okay, thank you, James. Thank you, James. One more question, and then we're going to move to the final bits of this particular community call. Does looking at give you access to compassion rather than empathy? And that's, I'm going to say your name probably incorrectly, Ima. That's your name. Thanks,
Ima. Yeah. Does looking at give you access to compassion rather than empathy?
It's an interesting one.
I think compassion is something that
compassion.
I don't know if it's
compassion.
I don't know if it's a cause-effect kind of relationship, but I do think compassion is a frequent experience, certainly is for me, when I truly understand what's going on for someone else. Because I can look as and feel it like they can, and I can look at and see just the dynamics that are playing out. When and other people have shared a similar experience with me as well. When I can truly see how the person is creating a struggle for themselves, or a dilemma for themselves, and I can see it and feel it, and I can just. Here's the thing: when you can see it really clearly, you can see how it's going to play out, not just in the situation they're talking about, but in so many situations. Like if they share with you something and you can see the structure of it, and you can see the driver, the driver meta programs and the belief and all those things that come together. Well, those things are coming together not just in that situation, but probably in every situation in their life. And when you can see that and the depth of all of that, I think compassion is, a really, I don't know what the right word is, but a really normal experience, a really common experience, because it's compassion, at least for me, of just seeing the human struggle, and particularly when you can see the unnecessariness of it sometimes. So I hope that answers the question. I don't know if it's cause effect, like I think the question's worded a little bit, but it's definitely correlated.
Okay, last question. Thank you, James. Z or Zay, I believe it may be.
Zay.
Zay. Why these 6 meta programs above others? For instance, e.g., why not global detail? Why have you chosen these ones today?
Well, look, I think all the meta programs play a role. I think global detail, can definitely show up in coaching. It's just my experience and probably a shared view. I haven't checked in with Jay or Joseph recently. These are the ones that will cause the most pain or the most, what's the other word? Maybe not pleasure, but effectiveness as a coach. Global in detail is one of those meta programs that definitely will have an effect. I just don't think it will have as dramatic effect as the ones that we've selected. The ones that we've selected, it's like if you can't do them properly, you're going to hemorrhage as a coach. Likewise, if you can do the ones that we've pointed out as really being effective, it's just gonna do you a lot of favors. And maybe not favors is the right word. It's just going to make the coaching much more effective, much more seamless, much more easy. The relationship much better. Your capacity to see what's going on much more clearer. And so there are others that definitely have an effect, but we want to limit this to kind of like a top 10 kind of attitude.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you, James. Thanks everybody for your questions. Max, should we just let everyone know what we've got coming up? So, continuing the spiritual series, Thursday, 20th of July, which is a week Thursday. Deeper into Samadhi, The Illusion of Self, Part 2. That is with Joseph. We shall be going more into moment 7 and the diagram there that some of you may be familiar with. If you haven't already seen Part 1, it is on the YouTube channel for the Coaching Room. So do check out Part 1. And Max, I will ask you if you can post that into the Facebook community as well to warm people up ready for next week's session as the follow-up one. So that's the first thing. Then handing it over to you, Max, for the last slide to let everyone know what we've got coming up course-wise and how it relates to what we've just done.
Yes, so next week we have 2 events starting. We've got the Coach Mentoring Program, which is the 6-month program, and we start that on the 17th of July, and that's 12 webinars, 12 group calls, 6 one-to-one mentoring sessions, and 1 face-to-face supervision session. We limit that to 12 on cohort. We do have a couple of spaces left, so if you've got any questions about that, contact Jay. If you decide this is what you want to do, contact me and we'll put you on. Excuse the doorbell. Finally, the Meta Coach Refresher Day is.
That was quick, that. Knocking his door down.
Right on time.
Saturday, the 22nd of July, which is next Saturday, for the MetaCoach Refresher Day. We'll be going through some core coaching skills and models in the MetaCoach training system. We'll give you an update of the significance of coaching in Australia through the areas of leadership and HR in organizations. And we have a really exciting offer for you, where you'll be able to add to your ACMC certification with a nationally recognized qualification and a diploma of professional coaching. This is the only place that you'll get it in Australia as a recognized qualification. So if you want to know more about that, RSVP to the event. I'll pop that in the comments below as well. Yeah, that's it.
There we go. Thank you very much, James. Thanks to Max. Thank you for the questions for James Webb, Sarah Franks, Ima, and Zay as well. Thank you all, and we shall see you next week for the session with Joseph. Take care.
Hey guys.
Enjoy it. See you in the community.